Hey, how you doing? Couple of huge movie fanatics coming at you. Next off, we're going to talk about, we're not going to branch this into separate reviews just because it isn't, there's no point. We're going to talk about Jaws 2, 3D, and Jaws The Revenge. So I'm going to lead off now. You'll be surprised, I don't know what you think about Jaws 2. I'm going to actually hear that here live for the very first time, I think, or at least, anyway, I'll hear that soon. But you'll be surprised to know that I think Jaws, if you hate it, you'll be surprised to know, that Jaws 2 is actually a pretty good continuation of the first one. Maybe, I think it captures the kind of spirit and the feeling of the first one very well. Is it necessary? Not necessarily, but it's obvious that Jaws 1 did very well. But I think you could really pretty much, I think Jaws 2 is a pretty goddamn good sequel, and you could really tack Jaws 2 right onto the end of Jaws 1 and make this huge epic long movie, and it feels very similar. I think I kind of like the kids. I mean, Keith Gordon is a classic. You know who that is? Keith Gordon. Keith Gordon's the kid who's like pumping up the boat. He's like, okay, and it blows up. Yeah. He's like, shit. The thing. He's from Christine. Keith Gordon. Oh, okay. He's a kid from Christine. He's also in Jaws 2. He really knows that he's just playing though. But you know, Keith Gordon, you got all these kids, and it's to me it was really fun. They're like sailing and all this stuff, and I thought Jaws 2 was a really kind of a good sequel. Like I say, necessary? No, but I think what they came up with was good, and the continuation of the Brody family, and they're older. I can't remember if it's supposed to really be the years later that it really was from the first movie to the second. I can't remember that. But I think in general, you know, you got to see more of the Brodies, and I think the characters were all. Roy Scheider's the only one who came back, I guess, right? Because they do talk about Dreyfuss's character just being off on some frickin' expedition or something like that.
Do you know anything about that?
What? Why? Is there something about that?
Spielberg and Dreyfuss were going to be in the sequel, and the script was written for them.
You mean Robert Shaw?
No, Spielberg was going to direct it.
Oh, he was going to do it.
And Dreyfuss was going to be in it, and they had planned to be in it, and then Spielberg decided to make Close Encounters, and it conflicted with the Jaws 2, so he opted for his own personal project over Jaws 2. Probably a better decision.
Probably, yeah, because the people who did Jaws 2 did it fine.
Yeah, and so that's why Dreyfuss was written out.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd say definitely 3 stars on Jaws 2. I like how it continues the Brody family, just the Amity Island situation. You got all the kind of all the townspeople and everyone, a lot of people that were in the first one just come back. It's like business as usual. I thought that Jaws 2 was a pretty good sequel, not needed, but there it was, and it worked well. 3 stars.
I'd give it 2.5. I don't think it's bad. I think it has a lot of good stuff in it. You did see a little too much of the shark, as with all like sort of horror sequels. You start to see more and more of the villain, and you get to see more of the shark. And the problem with the shark is it just doesn't look all that real. But the things that work, like as I say, Roy Scheider is such a good actor. He kind of carries the movie, and he carries it well.
And he gets fired and everything. I mean, it's kind of like Super 8, where it's not necessarily even about the shark, but I think that his dilemma with being fired in his job and people not believing him is an interesting enough thing in that movie. I like
the stuff with kids. And I will say this, for the second one, it was the only one that tried to bring a little bit of originality with the shark after the first movie. Like the shark gets destroyed in a different way from the first one. It's the only one to do that, because the other two sort of like, well, it worked in the first one, let's do it again. And then I actually like the climax of this, and I think the sailing has like a nice feel. It has a nice opening sequence. The wind is picking up, so you're not going to hear me. So
he's going to talk louder.
Yes, that's what happens.
Over the wind.
I will talk like a superhero. But yeah, I think that like the continuation of the family. I like the creepy aspect of the dead killer whale floating on the beach.
That too. Like kind of creepy and ghostly.
Yeah, and it also was like fantastic image just to see this great killer of sharks there having been killed by the great white, who I am to assume is the brother of the first one. I don't know.
Yeah, that's so funny. We I think that's something that Roy Scheider mentioned. Like, if a shark is destroyed, you don't think another shark could take its place. Sharks don't take things personally, Mr. Brody. So it's kind of Yeah, until Jaws: The Revenge. But it's kind of interesting because we never really know. In fact, is this the brother of the shark, the sister, the son, the dad? Is this a family member of the? It's just another damn shark, is what it boils down to.
And basically, my reason for not giving it such a high review is essentially it is unnecessary. Like the first one, like it ends with enough said. There doesn't need to be any more. And the fact that you do get something else, it is nice that it continued on with the same characters for the most part. And I like seeing more of the Brody family and the wife and all. And
Amity Island.
And Amity Island. It worked in that respect, more so than either of the other sequels. But what just does it just didn't seem necessary. It didn't really add anything to anything at the end of the day, and that was why I have a distaste for it.
He's got a distaste for it.
Yes. I don't hate it. I don't disrespect it either. It is what it is, and it's sort of the start of the sequel, the unnecessary sequel that you get in film across the board.
Yeah, Jaws 2, where Jaws was kind of the beginning of the summer blockbuster, Jaws 2 was kind of the beginning of the unnecessary sequel.
Essentially, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did you say stars? You said 2?
2.5.
2.5. Yeah. Well, for me, like I said, I already said it. Want to go into Jaws 3D?
Jaws 3D. That one, I think. I was reading up a little bit about Jaws 3D, and it was originally supposed to be a spoof, a National Lampoon spoof, and it was going to be called Jaws 3 Humans 0 or
Isn't
something
that
like
great
that.
title? Jaws 3 Humans Nothing or whatever.
Yeah, and it was written by Richard Matheson, one of the great sci-fi writers of all time, sci-fi horror. He did I Am Legend, he did What Dreams May Come, he did that excellent Twilight Zone episode with Shatner, There's Something on the Wing of the Plane. That the terror from 30,000 feet or 50,000 feet or whatever.
Anyway, he's done other stuff.
He's brilliant, and he was going to do it sort of like as a comedy, and that the higher ups at Universal is it?
Universal, yeah.
At Universal were like, it worked twice before. Let's not make it a comedy. Let's make it a horror movie. And what they came up with, I like the idea of having the monster shark in a monster the Sea World, and like it's the monster in an amusement park thing. There is some interest that comes along with that, like just my boyish interest is like, ooh, I want to see chaos happening in Sea World.
Right. Chaos
in an amusement park. Yeah. It's the Jurassic Park syndrome. Like that could be cool. But I think technology hadn't gotten to the point to make it work yet. Had that movie been made now, I think it might have been a little more interesting. But technology really holds that movie back. And the fact that they went for the 3D, which I'm sure in theater, like in theory, might have worked. I was not privy to seeing it in 3D. But on home video, the 3D stuff just is so like, it's the sore thumb of the movie. It just sticks out. And like there's that awkward shot of the shark just sort of diagonally at the screen.
Yeah,
and
it's
you're
like
just
a still photo of the shark.
What is that? Like, is that supposed to be scary? Like, all fear is lost. And I will say that, like, it does have some people I like in it. Dennis Quaid is in it, if memory serves. He's the lead. He's the lead Brody child. Who was suddenly, like, 48. And I think he's like 25, but whatever.
Oh, yeah,
he jumps from 8 to 28 in the span of like a year. And then isn't Leah Thompson in it?
Yeah, Leah Thompson.
And I like Leah Thompson. She's one of my favorite 80s actresses. And so, I mean, there's aspects of the movie that I like, but overall that movie is pretty balls. It's not very good. I'd give it like 1.5. I think it showed effort at trying to do something original, and then the studio came in and wiped that idea away, and you can see like just glimpses of what possibly could have been, as I say, the boyish dream of terror going on in an amusement park.
Yeah.
But overall, it didn't really work. The ending is essentially the ending of the first one in many respects. I don't know, it didn't hold its own. And there's like that weird awkward moment in the beginning of the movie with Dennis Quaid just walking out and he's like, "Hey, Dad!" And you just see some random guy in the background who waves back. And
What? He did that?
I swear to God, I swear that's in there.
I'm not too sure that's in there.
I'm pretty sure that is in there.
Okay, well,
Because my dad and I always used to comment on that. But anyway, whatever. I'm not a huge fan of Jaws 3D.